Let's be honest, most people think men love going down there because it's physical, because it's wild, or because it makes them feel powerful. But what if I told you that for many men, it's the complete opposite, that it's not about control, it's about care. See, the real reason a man loves it has nothing to do with lust. It's about what it represents. And if you understand that, you'll understand something powerful about how men love. When a man does it out of love, he's not chasing pleasure, he's chasing connection. It's his way of saying, I see you, I value you. It's an act of attention, not ego. He's learning your rhythm, your comfort, your reactions. Because in that moment, he's not trying to take something from you, he's giving something to you. And what moves him most isn't the act itself, it's how you respond. When you let go of tension, when you stop hiding or judging yourself, when you simply allow him to make you feel good, that's what draws him in deeper. Confidence is magnetic. It tells him you trust him, and that trust changes everything. Because to a man who truly cares, it's not about technique, it's about emotion. It's his way of feeling close, of showing devotion without words. When he sees you at your most relaxed, your most real, it melts him in a way few things can. If you've ever wondered how to make that connection even stronger, where he doesn't just desire you but adores you, make sure you stay until the end. Because what I'm about to tell you will shift how you see intimacy forever. When a man touches you, not just with his hands but with intention, something ancient stirs between you. It's not simply about desire, and it's not just about pleasure either. It's a quiet conversation your bodies begin to have when words no longer work. I used to think intimacy was only about chemistry, fire, attraction, or timing. But lately, I've started to realize it might be something deeper, something that has less to do with bodies and more to do with truth. Have you ever noticed how, in those silent moments when everything slows, your breath begins to match his? That tiny synchronization, that invisible rhythm isn't accidental, it's connection. It's the body's way of saying, I see you, I feel you, I trust you. And that's the real reason why some moments feel unforgettable, while others disappear quickly. What if I told you the difference isn't in what he does, but in how much you allow yourself to be seen? Because when a man genuinely wants to explore you, it's not your body he's chasing. It's your reaction, your truth, your unfiltered self that doesn't hide behind trying too hard. There's something magnetic about a woman who feels safe enough to relax, not in weakness, but in strength. When she stops performing and just allows herself to feel, she becomes captivating. Not because she's trying, but because she's real. That's what stays in a man's mind long after the moment passes. That's what he remembers. People often say men are simple, that they only chase pleasure. But I don't believe that. The truth is, when a man feels deeply drawn to a woman, it's because he finds something sacred in her vulnerability, something raw, genuine, and human. It's not power he's after, it's impact. He wants to know he can move her, touch something inside her, shift her energy. He wants to create an experience she'll never forget. And here's what many women don't realize. That desire to connect, that hunger to see you let go, comes from devotion, not conquest. To a man who feels deeply, your pleasure is his validation. It tells him, you're seen, you matter, you're enough. It's not arrogance, it's affirmation. The act becomes its own language, one that expresses what words never can. But here's what's even more fascinating. Every man expresses that desire differently. Some through touch, others through patience, or even through the quiet way they look at you, as if they're memorizing every second. And when that gaze lingers, not out of lust but reverence, it becomes a kind of worship, not worship of your body, but of your presence. He's not admiring perfection, he's admiring truth. And that understanding changes everything. Because once you realize that, you stop worrying about how you look or what he's thinking. You start focusing on feeling instead. You start letting go. That's when real magic happens. I used to think love was about control, about giving just enough to stay safe. But maybe real strength isn't control at all. Maybe it's being able to trust, to open up, to let someone in while still knowing you're whole on your own. Maybe intimacy isn't about what happens between two bodies, but about what happens between two souls when they finally stop pretending. That's why this subject matters, not because it's sensual, but because it's deeply human. Inside that moment of closeness lies the one thing both men and women crave most: to feel seen, accepted, and loved without conditions. So tonight, I want you to ask yourself, when was the last time you let someone see the real you? The version without fear, without control, without the act, because that's where true connection begins. And what I'm about to share might just change the way you see intimacy forever. When a man feels genuinely drawn to a woman, it's not just about desire, it's about recognition. Beneath every touch and every kiss lies a silent question. Do you feel me the way I feel you? Most people think intimacy is about passion, but the deeper truth is, it's about validation. For men, the most powerful moments aren't when they're in control, but when they see your body react because of them. When they can see proof that they've made you feel something real, that's what connects them. They're not chasing pleasure, they're chasing meaning. What you might not realize is that in those moments, he's listening to you in ways you can't even hear yourself. The rhythm of your breath, the tension in your shoulders, the trembling in your voice, all become his language. He doesn't need words. Your reactions say everything. And when you stop holding back, when you express freely without fear of judgment or perfection, you invite him deeper into your world. That's when his focus sharpens, his movement slows, his touch becomes more intentional. Because for him, it's not about performance, it's about connection. The way your body mirrors what he gives tells him he's reaching far beyond skin. I've come to believe that men are often misunderstood in how they experience closeness. They're raised to be providers, protectors, and problem solvers. But in those rare moments of real connection, they finally get to stop performing. In that quiet space, they can simply feel, to give, to care, to exist without pressure. That's what makes these moments sacred to them. It's not dominance, it's surrender. Think about it. When a man chooses to explore you, he's not just acting on instinct, he's showing trust. He's being vulnerable in a way society rarely allows. In that instant, his attention belongs entirely to you. The rest of the world fades away. He's not thinking, not planning, not distracted. He's completely present. And presence is the truest form of desire. But it's also fragile because the moment you pull back, he feels it. Even the smallest hesitation or doubt can break the rhythm. That's why being real matters so much. When you let him see your truth, the size, the softness, the surrender, you tell him, it's safe here. And that's when he relaxes too. That's when intimacy shifts from something physical to something energetic. Two people stop being separate. They become a rhythm, a current. It's a dance of emotion, focus, and trust. And for men, that's the most powerful feeling. Not because it's physical, but because it's real. There's no act, no pretending, no performance, only response. That's what makes it addictive. Because in everyday life, men rarely get to feel seen without proving themselves. But in this space, your response is enough. It tells him he's capable of creating pleasure, safety, and closeness all at once. That's why he craves your reactions more than your words. Your body becomes his feedback, your pleasure his confirmation. And every time you let go, it reminds him he's enough. I used to think women were the emotional ones, but now I see men feel just as deeply. They just express it differently. For them, emotion flows through action. When they touch you, it's not only about desire, it's how they communicate. Through that touch, they're saying everything they can't put into words. He's trusting you with his truth. It's how he says, I care. When he slows down, it's his way of saying, I'm here. When he looks at you and waits for your breath to match his, it's his quiet way of saying, I trust you. That's why these moments linger. They're not measured in minutes, but in sensations. They leave behind something unseen, a memory of what real connection feels like. So when you respond, When you open without fear, you're giving him something far more powerful than physical pleasure. You're giving him a feeling of belonging. That's what pulls him back again and again, not because of what you do, but because of how you make him feel. The warmth in your surrender, the honesty in your reactions, the invisible current between you, these are the threads that tie him to you long after the moment ends. Most people chase chemistry, but few understand connection. Chemistry fades, but connection deepens. When you allow that space to exist, when you stop trying to control and simply start to receive, you create an experience that feels almost beyond words. That's when he begins to see intimacy as something spiritual, not just physical, because now it's not only about you and him, it's about what happens between you. It's about that invisible language made of touch, breath, and emotion that no words could ever capture. Maybe that's the real secret behind why certain moments stay with us forever. They're not about the act itself, but about the exchange, the giving, the trust, the unspoken truth that for a moment two people stopped being separate and remembered what it means to truly be human. But there's something else, something most people miss, and it changes everything about how men love and connect. What most people overlook is that for a man, intimacy isn't just something he gives, it's something he discovers within himself. Every time he gets close enough to feel your breath, your pulse, your warmth, he's not just learning about you, he's uncovering hidden parts of himself he can't reach anywhere else. The man who slows down, who truly pays attention, who listens not just to your words but to your body, is also learning to listen to his own. He realizes that tenderness doesn't make him weak, it makes him alive. He understands that power isn't about control, it's about presence. And as he feels you respond to him, something inside him shifts. He learns that connection is the truest kind of strength. Men aren't often given permission to feel deeply. They're taught to win, to lead, to perform. But in that quiet, unspoken exchange, all of that falls away. There's no competition, no goal, no scoreboard, just breath, movement, and emotion. In that space, he doesn't need to prove anything. He simply exists. That's why he keeps coming back, not out of desire alone, but because he longs for that rare sense of peace that comes from feeling whole. You might not realize it, but when you let him explore you with patience and care, you're showing him something powerful, that it's safe to be soft, that strength and gentleness can live together, that he doesn't have to wear armor to be accepted. The moment you touch his face or rest your hand gently on his neck, you're telling him, you're enough. You don't have to fight here. That simple message changes something inside him. It calms him, disarms him, makes him want to give more, to stay longer, to listen closer, because finally he's found a place where he can breathe without pretending. That's the quiet heartbeat beneath real intimacy. It's not about pleasure, it's about peace. The kind of peace that happens when two people trust each other enough to stop performing. When that happens, everything changes. The air feels thicker, the noise fades away. What's left is presence, the slow rhythm, the shared heat, the tiny sounds that speak louder than words. It becomes its own language, not dramatic or loud, but one you can feel deep in your bones. It tells him, you're home. The truth is, most men don't talk about this because they don't have words for it. They'll say it was amazing or unforgettable, but what they really mean is that something in that moment touched a part of them they didn't know how to describe, something that reminded them what it feels like to be safe enough to feel. That's why they crave it. That's why they seek it. Not just the physical closeness, but the emotional permission it brings. The freedom to drop the weight of expectations, to stop being the one who always has to lead, protect, or decide. For once, he gets to let go, to follow your rhythm, to be guided by something beyond logic or control. And that surrender feels like freedom. For women, surrender often means trust. For men, surrender means release. Because when he's with you in that kind of space, he's not calculating, he's not defending, he's not trying to be anything other than himself. He's just being. That's the part of intimacy no one teaches us, the part that's not about pleasure, but about truth. And once truth is felt, it can't be forgotten. It lingers, it marks him, it calls him back, not just to your body, but to the version of himself that can exist only with you, the version of him that's allowed to feel everything. That's why, long after the moment has ended, after the lights dim and the world returns to its noise, he still remembers. Not the act, but the feeling, the warmth, the quiet, the sense of being understood. It's not obsession, it's recognition. The soul remembering the one place it could finally rest. That's what intimacy truly is. Not fire, but grounding. Not conquest, but communion. And when a man finds that, he doesn't want to lose it. He'll seek it again, not to repeat the act, but to return to that rare peace, the wordless calm where he feels enough. Because deep down, every man, no matter how strong, confident, or composed, just wants to know that he can let go and still be worthy. But here's the real question. What happens when he finds that connection and realizes it changes how he sees love itself? That's where the truth begins to unfold. When a man finally understands that intimacy is more than just touch, something profound shifts inside him. He begins to realize that love isn't measured by passion alone, but by steadiness, by how safe he feels being his full self with you. For years, he might have believed that attraction was about excitement, the chase, the rush, but once he's experienced real connection, the kind that quiets his thoughts and steadies his heart, everything starts to change. He begins to crave peace more than thrill, depth more than chaos. And here's the beautiful paradox. The more secure he feels with you, the more passion he can show. Because passion born from safety burns slower, deeper and stronger than any quick spark. I used to think men feared vulnerability, that they ran from feelings that made them unsure. But I've seen the opposite. Men don't fear vulnerability. They fear being vulnerable with the wrong person, someone who won't understand the silence behind their words. When a man opens up in closeness, when he lets you see the softness beneath his strength, he's not just trusting you with his body, he's trusting you with his truth, his heart, and the most unguarded part of his soul. He's trusting you with his true self. That kind of openness is deeper than any physical closeness. It's his way of saying, this is who I really am, without the mask. Will you still see me the same? And when you respond not with words, but with warmth, with a glance, a touch, or a sigh that says, you're safe here, you give him something rare, an emotional refuge. That's what keeps him loyal in ways reason can't explain. Because when a man feels peace in your presence, no thrill outside of it compares. You become the place where he remembers who he is when he doesn't have to pretend. That's the real essence of attraction. It's not about perfection or appearance. It's about energy, the kind that says, you can breathe here. When a woman carries that energy, she doesn't have to chase. She attracts. Her calmness becomes magnetic. Her softness becomes strength. Because true softness isn't weakness, it's invitation. And a man who spent his whole life fighting for control will always be drawn to the place where he can finally stop fighting. In that way, intimacy becomes healing. Every kiss, every breath, every quiet moment turns into a kind of therapy where two people remind each other that it's okay to feel, to let go, to be human. That's why, for men, real connection feels sacred. It's not only about pleasure, it's about return. A return to honesty, emotion, and presence. When he's with you in that state, he's not escaping life, he's reconnecting to it. The sound of your breath, the warmth of your touch. It's not just stimulation, it's grounding. It tells him he's real, that this moment exists beyond words or expectations. And that understanding changes the way he loves. Once a man experiences love through presence instead of performance, he stops chasing approval and starts seeking harmony. He doesn't want to impress you, he wants to feel you. He doesn't want to control, he wants to connect. That shift turns intimacy from an act into a dialogue, from desire into devotion. That's when his love grows deeper. It becomes less about taking and more about giving. Not to prove, but to connect. not to control, but to care. You'll see it in the way he touches you, not rushed, not mechanical, but with purpose and respect. You'll feel it in how he looks at you afterward, as if he's still sensing the echo of your presence in the air. And in that look, you'll see something more than attraction. You'll see gratitude, because he now realizes that what you've shared isn't just pleasure, it's perspective. It's a mirror reflecting his own depth back to him. That awareness transforms him. He starts to love differently, speak differently, move through the world with a calm confidence born from knowing what real connection feels like. But that kind of intimacy, the kind that truly changes a man, depends on one thing: a woman's ability to stay open without losing herself. Because connection isn't about giving everything away. It's about letting what's real flow naturally. That balance, that dance between giving and grounding, defines love at its highest form. Still, there's one more layer to this truth, one that explains why connection like this doesn't just change him, but you as well. And once you understand it, you'll never see intimacy the same way again. When two people reach that level of connection, something almost magical happens. It's no longer about who's giving or receiving. It becomes a shared current, like two rivers joining, flowing as one until you can't tell which one began first. You feel it in the quiet after the rush, when everything slows and all that remains is the heartbeat beneath the silence. That's when intimacy turns into transformation, when both realize that what they're feeling isn't just closeness, it's clarity. You start to see each other differently. The walls that once seemed necessary melt away. You stop performing the versions of yourself you thought you needed to be, and start showing the parts that rarely see light. For him, it's the first time he lets himself feel without fear of being misunderstood. For you, it's the moment you realize that your softness isn't fragility, it's power, because it moves him in ways strength never could. I used to think transformation in love came from big moments or dramatic gestures, but now I know it happens in whispers, in the pauses between breaths, in the spaces where you stop trying to prove and simply allow yourself to be. That's the beauty of real connection. It rewrites who you are. He begins to see that being masculine doesn't mean being untouchable. It means having the courage to feel deeply. You start to see that being feminine isn't about pleasing. It's about radiating truth so pure that it invites safety. Together, you both learn that intimacy isn't a finish line. It's a rhythm, a constant flow of giving, receiving, pausing, and returning. In that rhythm, something ancient awakens. You start to remember what love was before the world told you what it should look like. You remember the instinct to touch, to care, to listen. You remember that vulnerability isn't the opposite of strength, it's the root of it. That's why connection like this feels almost spiritual. It's not about escaping life, but returning to it more whole. The energy between you changes, from urgency to understanding. There's no need to rush, because presence itself becomes the pleasure. Every glance, every sigh, every unspoken word becomes a thread, weaving something sacred. And in that weaving, you both begin to heal parts of yourselves you didn't even know were wounded. He starts to heal the part of him that was told men shouldn't feel. You begin to heal the part of you that was told women must hide their hearts. Together, you rewrite the story. You create a new language, one made of patience, awareness, and truth. That's why true intimacy leaves a mark that time can't erase. It's not about memory, it's about imprint. It changes the way you move through the world. He carries your softness in his hands, and you carry his calm in your heartbeat. You both become gentler, not weaker, but wiser. Because once you've seen love stripped of performance, you can't unsee it. That's the quiet revolution of connection. It teaches you that love doesn't ask for perfection, it asks for presence. It's not found in noise or big declarations, but in the stillness of recognition. I see you, I trust you, I choose you. That's the kind of intimacy that stays even in absence, because it's not tied to touch, it's tied to truth. And truth has a way of echoing long after the moment ends. He'll carry it in the way he speaks, in the calm that wasn't there before, in the way he looks at you across a crowded room. You'll carry it in the way you breathe, in the confidence that no longer needs validation, in the quiet knowing that you are worthy of being fully seen and felt. This kind of connection doesn't just change a relationship, it changes the people in it. It refines them, softens them, and reminds them what real love was always meant to be. It brings them back to themselves. That's why it's so rare, so electric, so unforgettable. Because once two souls meet at that depth, they can never go back to the surface unchanged. They've seen what it truly means to merge without losing, to surrender without disappearing. And that balance, that deep trust, becomes the heartbeat of something greater than romance. It becomes growth. But there's one final truth, the deepest layer most people never reach. It's the realization that the most profound connection you'll ever feel doesn't begin with him or with her. It begins with you, and that's where everything leads. Every feeling, every moment of closeness brings you here, to the quiet truth that real connection doesn't start with what someone gives you, but with what you allow yourself to feel. The truth is, no matter how deeply another person sees you, if you can't meet yourself with that same honesty, the connection won't last. It will fade, flicker, dissolve back into longing. That's why the strongest intimacy isn't about being chosen, it's about being open. When you understand your own rhythm, your needs, your limits, you stop waiting for someone to complete you and start creating space for someone to meet you. That's the root of lasting chemistry. Two whole people choosing to intertwine, not two halves trying to fix each other.